At that time, or before that, I never thought I'd actually do it, but in that exact moment, there was no turning back. Everything felt too intense, too forbidden, and it happened right there, right then. You're about to see exactly how it went down, and trust me, it's nothing like you expect. I should have stayed at the chain hotel across town. That's what I kept telling myself as I pulled my suitcase through the narrow, dimly lit lobby of the Holloway Inn. My company booked the room because it was closer to the client site and, supposedly, charming. But charm wasn't the word that came to mind when I walked in. The air smelled faintly of mildew, and the lights buzzed overhead like dying insects. Behind the counter sat a woman in her 50s with a stiff smile that looked more like pain than courtesy. Her pale hands gripped the desk as if she'd been sitting there far too long. "Reservation?" she asked, voice low and scratchy. "Yes. Under Harper. Julia Harper." Her eyes flicked to the computer screen, then to me. She hesitated, just long enough to notice before sliding a keycard across the counter. "Room 6, top of the hall." Her lips twitched before she added, almost reluctantly, "That room is always empty." I frowned. "Excuse me?" But she was already glancing away, shuffling papers that didn't need shuffling. I thought, maybe I misheard. The elevator was out of order, so I dragged my suitcase up the stairs, each step creaking like brittle bones. The hallway carpet muffled my footsteps, but it also felt too soft, almost spongy, as if it had absorbed years of spills and worse. The air grew colder with each step. I hugged my coat tighter, telling myself old buildings just had bad insulation. Room 6 was at the very end of the corridor. The brass numbers on the door were tarnished, edges dark with grime. I slid the keycard in. Nothing. I tried again. Red light. Third time. The lock clicked reluctantly, like it was waking from a long sleep. The room smelled stale, like no one had cracked a window in years. A chill hit me as soon as I entered. So sharp, I actually shivered. The curtains were heavy and yellowed, letting in almost no light from the street lamp outside. The bed looked untouched, sheet stiff, though the mattress sagged in the middle as though someone or something still pressed against it. I wheeled my suitcase inside, trying to laugh at my own nerves. "It's just an old hotel," I muttered. Nothing more. But the feeling of being watched lingered, thick as smoke. I busied myself unpacking, deliberately avoiding the mirror on the wall. Its surface was cloudy, speckled with black marks, but when I passed it, I swore I caught the briefest glimpse of movement, like a shadow that shouldn't be there. By 10 o'clock, exhaustion from the long drive settled in. I lay down on the bed, covers stiff and scratchy, and turned off the lamp. The darkness was heavy, suffocating. My ears strained for sound, and that was the problem. I heard something, a faint, steady rhythm, breathing, not mine. I bolted upright and fumbled for the light. When it flicked on, the room was silent again. No movement, no figure lurking in the corner, just me, panting in a too-cold room. I laughed shakily. "You're 35, Julia." Too old to be spooked by bad insulation and shadows, but the laughter didn't quite reach my chest. It stayed stuck in my throat, because deep down, I knew what I'd heard wasn't in my head. The sound had been too close, too real, and I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was still breathing in this room, long after I turned out the light. And though I told myself I was imagining things, I never could have guessed that this was only the beginning. I didn't sleep well. Every time I drifted off, I felt it, the weight of silence pressing down on me, heavy and unnatural, as though the room itself was holding its breath and waiting. When I finally did doze, it wasn't rest, just fractured dreams of shadow shifting in corners, of a woman's voice whispering my name from somewhere I couldn't see. By morning, the light seeping through the curtains was weak, watery and gray. I tried to shake off the unease, telling myself I was being ridiculous. Hotels always creak, old pipes rattle, drafts make strange sounds, that's all. But when I reached for my suitcase, my heart stopped. The zipper was open. I know I closed it last night. I'm obsessive about things like that. My clothes were slightly disheveled, as though someone had rifled through them with impatient hands. I stared at it for a long moment, pulse hammering in my ears, until I finally forced myself to laugh it off. "Probably slid open on its own," I muttered. "Except zippers don't just slide open." I dressed quickly and went downstairs for breakfast, hoping the noise of other guests would ground me back in reality. But the dining room was empty, no clatter of dishes, no chatter, just the receptionist behind her desk, the same stiff smile plastered on her face. Excuse me, I said, trying to sound casual. Do you have any idea why the room feels colder than the rest of the hotel? It's like the heating's broken. Her smile faltered for half a second, and then she shook her head. Old building, she said curtly. Drafts. Nothing to worry about. I also thought I heard... I stopped myself. I wasn't about to admit I thought I heard breathing. Noises. I finished instead. Her eyes flicked up, sharp, and for the first time her expression cracked. There was something in her gaze, warning, maybe even pity. Then, just as quickly, she masked it with her thin smile. You're imagining things. That room hasn't had a guest in years. The words sat like ice in my chest. What do you mean? But she didn't answer. She just returned to her papers as though I wasn't standing there. I left quickly, unsettled. Outside, the world felt normal again. Cars passing, people walking, sunlight cutting through the cold morning air. I told myself I was overreacting, that maybe she meant no regular guests. Still, the words stuck with me all day. That night, I dreaded returning, but work left me no choice. The hotel was nearly silent when I walked back in. Only the faint hum of the old vending machine near the lobby broke the stillness. My footsteps echoed down the hall, louder than they should have, like the building was empty but listening. Inside room 6, the temperature was even colder than before. I rubbed my arms, set my things down, and tried to distract myself with emails. For a while, the glow of my laptop screen helped. The familiar hum of work lulled me into a fragile sense of safety. Then came the tapping. At first, I thought it was just the radiator, old pipes expanding and cooling, but the sound was too deliberate. A slow, steady rhythm, tap, 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 coming from the closet. I froze, staring at the door. The sound stopped. My ears strained, the silence deafening, until the tapping began again, a little faster this time. I forced myself up, every muscle tense, and gripped the closet handle. My skin prickled with goosebumps as I yanked the door open. Nothing. Just my coat swaying slightly as though they had been disturbed. I shut the door hard, told myself it was air currents, and went back to bed. But sleep wouldn't come. Hours passed, and then, just as I finally felt myself slipping under, I heard it. A voice, soft close, right at my ear. Julia! I jolted awake, heart slamming against my ribs. The room was dark, but I knew what I'd heard. It was my name, whispered with a slow, dragging breath, too intimate, too knowing. My throat went dry. I fumbled for the lamp, but the bulb flickered violently, casting the room in jerky flashes of light and shadow before dying completely. The darkness was absolute. I scrambled for my phone, thumb shaking over the flashlight. When I felt it, the distinct, unmistakable sensation of the mattress sinking beside me as if someone had just sat down. The air grew colder. My breath came in clouds. I didn't move, didn't breathe as the dip in the bed deepened. I forced myself to turn the flashlight on. The beam cut through the dark, landing on nothing but wrinkled sheets, pressed down into the unmistakable shape of an invisible body lying right next to me. I choked back a scream and bolted upright, pressing myself against the headboard. The shape didn't move. The sheets stayed indented, and then slowly, they began to rise again as though whatever had been lying there was standing. The room was silent except for my own rigid breathing. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat upright in the corner chair, phone clutched in my hand, eyes on the empty bed until pale light bled through the curtains, and yet, even in daylight, when the shape had vanished and the sheets looked untouched, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had lain down beside me. That it had whispered my name not once, but many times before I woke. And the worst part wasn't the sound of my name or the weight beside me. The worst part was that a small, sick part of me knew it wasn't finished. This wasn't a single haunting. This was something waiting, something patient, something that had finally decided I was worth noticing, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the longer I stayed, the closer it would come. I told myself I could endure one more night, just one. But even then, some part of me already knew I'd made a mistake I couldn't undo, and I had no idea just how much closer it was planning to get. By the time night fell again, I was exhausted, but not from work. It was the kind of exhaustion that lives in your bones, the weight of fear dragging at every thought. All day I'd been replaying the moment in bed, the dip of the mattress, the whisper of my name. It didn't feel like a dream. It was too sharp, too real. I should have checked out. I told myself a dozen times to pack my bag, drive away, and find another place to stay, any place. But logic never wins in situations like this. Instead, I clung to reason like a shield. You imagined it. You were tired. The light was bad. There's nothing here. That's what I told myself as I stood in the doorway of room 6 again, suitcase handle in my grip so tight my knuckles ached. The air was frigid, colder than the hall outside, as though the room had been sealed inside a block of ice. I stepped in slowly, every nerve in my body screaming not to. The bed was neatly made, the curtains hung still. The mirror on the far wall reflected only me. Pale face, strained eyes, hair falling loose around my shoulders. Normal. Everything looked normal, but I'd already learned that normal was just the mask this place wore until the lights went out. I left the lamp on. I wasn't going to sit in the dark again. I busied myself with my laptop, trying to drown out the silence with the clack of keys. For an hour, nothing happened. For an hour, I almost convinced myself it had all been nerves. And then, at exactly 3 a.m, I woke to find the lamp off. I hadn't turned it off. I knew I hadn't. But the room was dark. The kind of dark that felt thick, like velvet pressed against your eyes. I fumbled for my phone, thumb shaking on the flashlight. The beam cut across the room and landed on the closet door. It was open, not wide, just an inch or two. Enough to show blackness spilling out like smoke. My heart slammed against my ribs. I knew I'd shut it. I remembered shutting it. Slowly, I slid out of bed, every muscle in my body tense. The floor was ice beneath my bare feet. I inched closer, phone light trembling in my hand. The moment I touched the door, it creaked wider on its own. I froze. Inside the beam caught something pale, fabric hanging limp. My coats, just my coats. Relief spilled over me in a shaky laugh. Then the coats swayed, not from my touch, not from air. They swayed as though someone had brushed past them, hidden deep inside the dark. I slammed the door shut and stumbled back, gasping. My phone slipped from my hand, clattering to the floor, the light skittering across the ceiling. That's when I saw it, standing at the end of the bed, a shape, a person. Tall, thin, head tilted to one side in an unnatural angle, like the neck had snapped long ago. Its outline was blurry, like smoke trying to remember the shape of a body. I couldn't breathe. My chest locked up. My skin prickled with icy needles. "Who's there?" My voice cracked, barely above a whisper. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just stood, watching me with eyes that weren't eyes at all, dark holes where a face should have been. I scrambled for my phone, yanking the flashlight toward it. The beam hit the shape, and in that split second, I saw it clearer. A woman, hair matted, jaw unhinged too wide, a soundless scream carved into her face. The light flickered, sputtered, then died. Pitch black. I backed toward the door, hand groping blindly for the handle. My fingers brushed cold metal, and then the door slammed shut on its own, rattling the frame. I screamed, pounding at it, twisting the handle. It wouldn't budge. Behind me, I heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming closer across the carpet. I pressed myself flat against the door, tears burning my eyes. "Please, please don't." The footsteps stopped. The silence that followed was worse. I felt it then, right at my ear, a breath. Cold, damp, impossibly close. "Stay," it whispered. I spun, phone clutched like a weapon, but there was nothing. Just darkness pressing in on every side. My own ragged breathing filled the room. When the light flickered back on, the bed was empty, the closet closed, the figure gone. Only the mirror caught my eye, my reflection trembling, pale, hollow-eyed. And behind me, in the glass, a shadow still lingered, watching. I spent the rest of the night in the bathroom with the door locked, sitting on the cold tile floor, phone in my lap. I couldn't bring myself to close my eyes. Every creak, every whisper of air made my heart seize. By dawn, I was shaking so badly I could barely stand. The morning light seeped weakly through the curtains, but it didn't warm the room. It didn't make me feel safe, because now I knew. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't nerves or exhaustion. Something was in that room with me, something that wanted me to know it was there. And worse, it didn't just want to be seen. It wanted me. And I couldn't shake the sinking feeling that, for all my denial, it had already decided I was staying, whether I wanted to or not. I told myself I wouldn't come back. After what happened last night, I promised that when morning came I'd pack my bags and leave the Holloway Inn behind, but promises are easy to make in the daylight. At night, the mind turned weak, and mine betrayed me. It was raining when I returned from work. Sheets of water blurred the streetlights outside, and the entire building seemed to groan with the storm. I stood in the lobby for several minutes, suitcase in hand, staring at the front desk. The receptionist was gone. The chair sat empty. For one terrifying moment, I wondered if she had ever really been there at all. I should have turned around. I should have walked out and never looked back. But something pulled me up the stairs, something that felt stronger than my own will. By the time I realized I was standing in front of room 6 again, the keycard was already in my hand. The lock clicked without hesitation this time, as if the room was waiting. The air hit me like a wall, so cold I could see my breath instantly. My stomach knotted. I stepped inside, the door shutting heavily behind me. Though I hadn't touched it. For hours, nothing happened. The storm outside masked every creak and groan. I sat in the chair by the window, watching the curtains stir though the glass was shut tight. I told myself I could make it until morning, and then, sometime after midnight, the power went out. The room plunged into darkness, the storm outside the only sound. I grabbed my phone, but this time the flashlight wouldn't turn on. The screen froze, glitching, then went black completely. Dead. I sat frozen, ears straining, heart pounding. Then from the bed came the sound of sheets shifting. Slow. Deliberate. "Who's there?" My voice cracked, too thin to be convincing. No reply. Just the heavy, unmistakable sound of someone moving across the mattress, and then I saw it. At first only faint, a shape rising in the dark. A head, shoulders, a body pulling itself upright from the sagging dip in the mattress. The air thickened, grew heavy, and with it came a smell I hadn't noticed before. Rot. Damp. Sweet. Putrid rot. "Get away from me," I whispered, but my words fell flat in the suffocating silence. The figure moved, crawling across the bed toward me. I stumbled back, slamming into the wall, my breath tearing in shallow gasps. I couldn't see it clearly, only the shifting mass of shadow as it slid from the bed onto the floor. The sound of its hands dragging across the carpet filled the room. Then it stood. A woman. What was left of one. Her hair hung in thick, matted clumps, skin gray and torn as though waterlogged. Her mouth stretched wide, far wider than it should, jaw hanging loose in a grotesque gape, empty eye sockets fixed on me. "Stay," she hissed, voice wet, gurgling, like water trapped in a drowning throat. "Stay with me." She lunged. I screamed, ducking to the side, but her icy fingers grazed my arm. The skin burned with cold, bruises blooming instantly beneath her grip. I crashed to the floor, scrambling backward, but the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. I tried the handle. Locked. No use. She loomed over me now, shadow blotting out what little light bled through the curtains. Her face was inches from mine, the stench overwhelming. Her breath rattled against my cheek. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My body was locked in terror as her hand clamped around my wrist. The cold was unbearable, like plunging into frozen water. She pulled, dragging me toward the closet, the door rattling violently as though something inside was eager to welcome me. "No, please." My voice was raw, breaking. I kicked, struggled, but she was impossibly strong. The closet burst open, revealing not coats this time, but darkness, endless seething darkness swirling like liquid shadows. Shapes shifted within it, countless pale faces pressing against the void, mouths open in silent screams. I dug my nails into the carpet, desperate, fighting, but she pulled harder. "Forever," she crooned, her hollow eyes inches from mine. "You belong here." With us, my vision blurred, breath torn from me as the darkness licked at my legs, cold tendrils wrapping around my ankles. My heart thundered, panic clawing at every thought. I screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the void. The last thing I remember before everything went black was her smile, unnatural, splitting her face wide as she dragged me closer to the closet. And then, nothing. When I woke, I was sprawled on the floor, the closet door shut tight. My body ached, skin clammy with cold, wrists lined with deep purple marks like fingers pressed into the bone. Morning light seeped weakly through the curtains, but it did nothing to warm me. For a long moment, I just lay there, unable to move, afraid to even breathe, because I knew the truth now. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't imagination. She was real, and she wanted me. And worse, she wasn't finished. The house felt different after that night. Heavier, like it knew I was trying to leave, and it wasn't going to let me go so easily. Every floorboard creak seemed sharper, every shadow darker. I'd already booked the movers, but until then, I was trapped here one last week. On the first night of that week, I woke at 3:14 a.m. again, My heart sank when I saw the time glowing on the clock. This time, I didn't hear the floorboards or the dripping faucet. No, what I heard was whispering. A woman's voice. Not chanting, not muttering. Whispering. Clear enough that I could almost make out the words, but not quite. I lay there frozen, the hairs on my arms prickling like needles. The whispering grew louder. It wasn't in the hallway. It was closer, inside my bedroom. I forced myself to sit up, my eyes darting around in the dim light. Nothing. But the whisper was right behind me. So close I felt the warmth of breath on my ear. I spun around. No one. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The following morning, I found something new. On the wall of the kitchen, carved deep into the paint, were 3 words. "Don't leave yet." My stomach dropped. My hands trembled so violently I nearly dropped my coffee. I knew I hadn't done that. By the 3rd night, the dreams came, or maybe they weren't dreams. I would see myself standing in front of the mirror, whispering the same indecipherable words I'd been hearing. My reflection's mouth would keep moving even after I stopped. Her eyes, my eyes, were black, like pits. I woke each time gasping for air, my throat burning as if I'd been screaming. Then came the morning. I found muddy footprints leading from the front door straight into my bedroom, bare feet, smaller than mine. I hadn't stepped outside in 2 days. That was the moment I broke. I called a friend, begged her to come stay with me until I moved out. She laughed nervously, said I was being dramatic, but agreed anyway. The first night she stayed, I actually felt safe. We sat up late drinking wine, talking, keeping the lights on as long as possible. For the first time in weeks, I started to believe maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. But at 3:14 a.m., the sound came again. This time louder, the dragging of something heavy across the floor. My friend bolted upright. "What the hell was that?" she whispered. Relief flooded me. I wasn't crazy. Someone else heard it. We grabbed flashlights and tiptoed into the hallway. The sound echoed from the basement. Against every instinct, we went down. The basement was freezing, the air damp and metallic, like old blood. The flashlight beam flickered across the walls until it landed on something that made my stomach lurch. Carvings. Dozens of them. The same 3 words, over and over again, gouged into the concrete walls with something sharp. "Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet." My friend clutched my arm so tightly her nails dug in. "We're leaving," she said, her voice trembling. But then the lights went out. The basement plunged into pitch black. The dragging sound grew louder, circling us. My flashlight refused to turn back on no matter how hard I smacked it. My friend screamed, and something inhuman echoed her scream, mocking it, repeating it. Before, a hand clamped around my wrist. It was cold. Too cold to be alive. I yanked free and scrambled for the stairs. We ran faster than I thought possible, not looking back. The house shook with the sound of pounding footsteps behind us, chasing us up. We barely made it to my car. I don't remember turning the key or how we got to my friend's apartment. I just remember the feeling of that icy hand and the whispers still burning in my ear. I never went back inside the house, not even for my things. The movers retrieved what they could. They said when they entered, all the clocks in the house were stuck at 3:14. I've tried to move on. I live in a new apartment now, far away. Bright windows, warm walls, cheerful neighbors. I leave every light on at night, telling myself I'm fine, telling myself it's over. But last night, I woke in the middle of the night. My phone's screen lit up on its own. The time read 3:14 a.m., and faintly, from the corner of my dark bedroom, I heard it again. "Don't leave yet." I never meant for it to happen, but once that line was crossed, there was no going back. Every touch still lingers on my skin, equal parts comfort and sin. I should feel guilty, maybe I do, but a deeper part of me craves it again. We weren't supposed to fall, yet here we are, tangled in something dangerous and irresistible. Friends, lovers, strangers with a secret. I don't even know anymore. What are we now? Tell me what you think, Dr. Hur. Would you have walked away or let it happen too?